Hello guys! Today I'm gonna be reading Killing Eve, Codename Villanelle by Luke Jennings. Let's start with Chapter 1. The Palazzo Falconieri stands on a promontory on one of the smaller Italian lakes. It's late June and a faint breeze touches the pines and cypresses that cluster like sentinels around the rocky headland. The gardens are imposing and perhaps even beautiful, but the deep shadows lend the place a forbidding air, which is echoed by the severe lines of the palazzo itself. The building faces the lake and is fronted by tall windows through which silk curtains are visible. The east wing was once a banqueting hall, but now functions as a conference room. At its center, beneath a heavy Art Deco chandelier, is a long table bearing a Bugatti bronze of a panther. At first glance, the 12 men sitting around the table look ordinary enough, successful judging from their quietly expensive clothes. Most are in their late 50s or early 60s, with the kind of faces that you instantly forget. There's an unblinking watchfulness about these men, however, which is not ordinary. The morning passes in discussion, which is conducted in Russian and English, the language common to all those present. Then a light lunch, antipasti, lake trout, chilled Venezia wine, fresh figs and apricots, are served on the terrace. Afterwards, the 12 men pour themselves coffee, contemplate the breeze-ruffled expanse of the lake, and pace the garden. There are no security people, because at this level of secrecy, security people themselves become a risk. Before long, the men have returned to their places in the shadowed conference room. The day's agenda is simply headed Europe. The first speaker is an ageless, darkly tanned figure with deep-set eyes. He looks around him. This morning, gentlemen, we discussed Europe's political and economic future. We talked in particular about the flow of capital and how this can be best controlled. This afternoon, I want to speak to you about a different economy. The room darkens, and the 12 turn to face the screen on the room's north wall, showing an image of a Mediterranean port of container ships and ship-to-shore gantry cranes. Palermo, gentlemen, today the principal point of entry for cocaine into Europe. The result of a strategic alliance between the Mexican drug cartels and the Sicilian mafia. Aren't the Sicilians a spent force? Asks a heavy-set man to his left, who was under the impression that the mainland syndicates ran the drugs trade these days. That used to be the case. Until 18 months ago, the cartels then dealt principally with the 'Ndrangheta from the southern Italian region of Calabria. But in recent months, a war has broken out between the Calabrians and a resurgent Sicilian clan, the Greci. A face appears on the screen. The dark eyes coldly watchful, the mouth a steel trap. Salvatore Greco has dedicated his life to resurrecting the influence of his family, which lost its place in the Cosa Nostra tower structure in the 1990s, following the murder of Salvatore's family by a member of the rival Matteo family. A quarter of a century later, Salvatore was hunted down and killed all of the surviving Mattei. The Greci and their associates, the Mazzini, are the richest, most powerful and most feared of the Sicilian clans. Salvatore is known to have personally murdered at least 60 people and to have ordered the deaths of hundreds more. Today, at 55 years of age, his hold over Palermo and its drug trails is absolute. His enterprises worldwide turn over some $20 to $30 billion. Gentlemen, he's practically one of us. A faint ripple of amusement, or something approximating to it, runs around the room. The problem with Salvatore Greco is not his predilection for torture and murder, he continues. When mafiosi kill mafiosi, it's like a self-cleaning oven. But recently, he has started ordering the assassination of members of the establishment. To date, his tally is 2 judges and 4 senior magistrates, all killed by car bombs, and an investigative journalist who was gunned down last month outside her apartment. The journalist was pregnant at the time of the death. The child did not survive. He pauses and raises his glance to the screen with the image of the dead woman, spread-eagled on the pavement in a pool of blood. Needless to say, it has not been possible to directly implicate Greco in any of these crimes. Police have been bribed or threatened, witnesses intimidated. The code of silence, or omerta, prevails. The man is, to all intents and purposes, untouchable. A month ago I sent an intermediary to arrange a meeting with him, as I felt that we needed to reach some sort of accommodation. His activities in the corner of Europe have become so excessive that they threaten to impact on our own interests. Greco's response was immediate. The following day I received a sealed package. The image on the screen changes. It contained, as you can see, my associate's eyes, ears, and tongue. The message was clear: no meeting, no discussion, no accommodation. The men around the table regard the grisly tableau for a moment, then return their gaze to the speaker. Gentlemen, I think we need to take an executive decision concerning Salvatore Greco. He's a dangerously uncontrollably force and beyond the reach of the law. His criminal activities and the social havoc they entail threaten the stability of the Mediterranean sector. I propose that we remove him from the game, permanently. Rising from his chair, the speaker makes his way to a side table, returning with an antique lacquered box. Taking out a black velvet drawstring bag, he pours its contents on the table in front of him. 24 small ivory fish, 12 of them aged to a smooth yellow, 12 of them stained a dark blood red. Each man receives a contrasting pair of fish. The velvet bag makes its way around the table counterclockwise. When it has made a full revolution, it's passed to the man who proposed the vote. Once again, the contents on the bag are poured onto the dimly gleaming surface of the table. 12 red fish. A unanimous sentence of death. It's evening, a fortnight later, and Villanelle is sitting at an outside table at Le Jasmin, a private members' club in Paris's 16th arrondissement. From the east comes the murmur of traffic on the Boulevard Souchet. To the west is the Bois de Boulogne and the Hôtel Rascours. The club's garden is bordered by a trellis hung with blossoming jasmine, whose scent infuses the warm air. Most of the other tables are occupied, but conversation is muted. The light fades, the night awaits. Villanelle takes a long sip of her Grey Goose vodka martini and discreetly surveys the surroundings, particularly noting the couple at the next table. Both are in their mid-20s. He, elegantly disheveled, she cat-like and exquisite. Are they brother and sister, professional colleagues, lovers? Definitely not brother and sister, Villanelle decides. There's a tension between them, a complicity that's anything but familial. They're certainly rich, though. Her silk sweater, for example, is dark gold, matching her eyes. Not new, but definitely Chanel. And they're drinking vintage Taitinger, which doesn't come cheap at Le Jasmin. Catching Villanelle's eye, the man raises his champagne flute a centimeter or two. He murmurs to his companion, who fixes her with a cool, assessing stare. "Would you like to join us?" she asks. It's a challenge as much as an invitation. Villanelle stares back, unblinking. A breeze shivers the scented air. "It's not compulsory," says the man, his wry smile at odds with the calm of his gaze. Villanelle stands, lifts her glass. "I'd love to join you. I was expecting a friend, but she must have been held up." "In that case..." The man rises to his feet. "I am Olivier, and this is Nisa." "Villanelle." The conversation unfolds conventionally enough. Olivier, she learns, has recently launched a career as an art dealer. Nisa intermittently works as an actress. They're not related, nor in close inspection do they give the impression of being lovers. Even so, there's something subtly erotic in their complicity and the way they've drawn her into their orbit. "I'm a day trader," Villanelle tells them. "Currencies, interest rate, futures, all that." With satisfaction she notes the immediate dimming of interest in their eyes. She can, if necessary, talk for hours about day trading, but they don't want to know. Instead, Villanelle describes the sunlit first-floor flat in Versailles, from which she works. It doesn't exist, but she can picture it down to the ironwork scrolls on the balcony and the faded Persian rug on the floor. Her cover story is perfect now, and the deception, as always, affords her a rush of pleasure. "We love your name, and your eyes, and your hair, and most of all, we love your shoes," says Nisa. Villanelle laughs and flexes her feet in the strappy satin Louboutin. Catching Olivier's eyes, she deliberately mirrors his languid posture. She imagines his hand moving knowledgeably and possessively over her. He would see her, she guesses, as a beautiful collectible object. He would think himself in control. "What is funny?" asks Nisa, tilting her head and lighting a cigarette. "You are," says Villanelle. How would it be, she wonders, to lose herself in that golden gaze, to feel that smoky mouth on hers. She's enjoying herself now. She knows that both Olivier and Nisa want her. They think that they're playing her, and Villanelle will go on letting them think so. It'll be amusing to manipulate them, to see how far they'll go. "I have a suggestion," says Olivier, and at that moment the phone in Villanelle's bag begins to blink. A one-word text. Deflect. She stands, her expression blank. She glances at Nisa and Olivier, but in her mind they no longer exist. She's out of there without a word, and in less than a minute is swinging into a northbound stream of traffic on her Vespa. It's 3 years now since she first met the man who sent her the text. The man who, to this day, she knows only as Konstantin. Her circumstances then were different. Her name was Oksana Vorontsova, and she was officially registered as a student of French and linguistics at the University of Perm in Central Russia. In 6 months' time, she was due to sit her finals. It was unlikely, however, that she would ever walk into the university's examination hall, as, since the previous autumn, she'd been unavoidably detained elsewhere, specifically in the Dobryanka's Women's Remand Center in the Ural Mountains, accused of murder. It's a short drive, perhaps 5 minutes from Le Jasmin to Villanelle's apartment near the Port du Passy. The 1930s building is large, anonymous, and quiet, with a well-secured underground garage. After parking the Vespa alongside her car, a fast and anonymous silver-grey Audi TT Roadster, Villanelle takes a lift to the 6th floor and ascends the short flight of stairs to her rooftop apartment. The front door, although faced with the same paneling as the others in the building, is of reinforced steel, and the electronic locking system is custom-made. Inside, the apartment is comfortable and spacious, even a little shabby. Konstantin handed Villanelle the keys and title deeds a year ago. She has no idea who lived there before her, but the place was fully furnished when she moved in, and from the decades-old fixtures and fittings, she guesses it was someone elderly. Uninterested in decoration, she has left the apartment as she found it, with its faded sea green and French blue rooms, and its nondescript post-impressionist paintings. No one ever visits her here. Her professional meetings take place in cafes and public parks. Her sexual liaisons are mostly conducted in hotels, but if they were to do so, the apartment would bear out her cover story in every detail. In the study, her computer, a top-of-the-range wave of stainless steel, is protected by civilian security software that a halfway skilled hacker would quickly bypass. But a scan of its contents would reveal little more than the details of a successful day trading account, and the contents of the filing cabinet are similarly non-committal. There's no music system. Music, for Villanelle, is at best a pointless irritation, and at worst a lethal danger. In silence lies safety.